says here today, all of you, Lifnei Havaya, before Hashem. And the Alter says, Hayem is Rosh Hashanah. And Rosh Hashanah, we have this special energy where we sort of go back to our source, we go back to our roots, and back to that oneness. And when we go back to the root, to the source, over there we realize that we're really all just one. So there's that certain energy where Atam Nitzavim Hayayim, Kulchem, all of you together as one body and one soul. Remember? And he said when it comes to the side of holiness, when it comes to the side of Kedusha, there really is no beginning and no end. It's a circle. So really, really essentially, not one soul is superior from another, and we're really all just one. And we explained that. Right, what was the last thing we did? We said that right, the whole Jewish nation is really just one stature. Okay, I think that's what we did, and the difference is that it's not like he's coming to say let's not have positions, different roles. No, he's not coming to dismantle that, like the system of authority and levels, because practically speaking, we don't live in the essence. Okay, we live in a world. Yeah.
I think I was listening to the recording.
And
I think the last thing we did was that the Jewish people, Hashem, and the Torah are all one.
Yeah. I'm getting there. Thank you. But what I think is very important with this discussion, that some people take it out of context and they say, okay, if we're really all essentially the same, so we don't need authority in this world, or we don't need a teacher, and you do see a lack of respect and a lack of system. Okay, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So that's not the point. The point is, of course, we need a system. We need authority. We need respect. We need boundaries. We need different people to have different roles. But the main difference over here is, how do we view each other? Is there separation? Is there preda? Or is there oneness? Meaning to say, am I holier than thou or not? Or can we just all embrace each other as, at the end of the day, essentially, we're all godly and human, so we all struggle, and we all have different struggles. And on top of that, we all have to play a different role in this world. Clear? Now, what last class, thank you for reminding me and getting us there, as we were explaining that to be religious is to get in touch with this point, because you're touching the core of what's going on here, because the Jewish people, the Torah, and Hashem are all one. So I can't love one and not the other. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So what I was trying to explain was, how do they all come together? How do they all merge? And the answer is that when you get to the core, then everything falls into place. When I realize that I'm a godly soul and I fully accept myself for who I am, and okay, I make mistakes, but I can hold it. Okay, I can hold it. That doesn't mean it's okay to make mistakes. No, that means that when I make a mistake, I can fully have compassion on myself. So then if I can do that with myself, then I'm open to connecting with God, I'm open to helping others, I'm less judgmental, so they all just come together in one beautiful, united fashion. I heard an amazing story. So, it's a story from the Baal Shem Tov. So Baal Shem Tov stories. Sometimes they're a little bit like, oh my gosh, right? But the point is that really, in essence, he's trying to bring across a point. And the story goes that there were two neighbors. 1 minute. Sorry. I really stopped. There are two neighbors. And one of them was a big Torah scholar, a big Talmud Chacham. The Baal Shem Tov says the story, okay? One of them was a big Torah scholar, very, very successful, big Talmud Chacham, a pious person, really, did everything right, knew a lot, went to Shachrit, Mincha, Ma'ariv, did all he had to do, sat and learned. And he had a neighbor right next door to him who was a very simple person. And whenever they used to pass by each other, the pious man, the Torah scholar, the Talmud Chacham, would feel like, it's below his dignity to say hi to this person. It's like it doesn't really, like, he's such a great person, and he's like really he's what's it called, like an Ama Aretz. How do you say it in English? Ignorance? Yeah, like he's ignorant, and he would, every time they passed by, he would look at him with a certain like disdain, like, And on the other hand, the Baal Shem Tov says the neighbor who was at Ama Aretz, who was not learned and just a simple working person, that's how he was brought up, and that's what he knew. Every time he saw this neighbor who was a Talmud Chacham, he had like a pain of jealousy, but a healthy jealousy. I mean, right? Kinas Seifrin Tarba Chachma. What does that mean? That when you're jealous of a Talmud Chacham, that's when you're gonna maybe learn more. In other words, jealousy has a place in a good way also, that I look at someone who has more and I want that too for myself. So whenever he saw this neighbor, he had this like angst of like, I wish I could learn, but I can't. And then the Baal Shem Tov goes on to say, after 120, this big pious Torah scholar comes up to heaven, and they start weighing his mitzvos, and of course it's getting really, really heavy, because he really did everything right, and he learned so much Torah, and he davened, and he gave tzedakah, and he was pious, and he was careful with halacha, and kashrus, and everything, and it's just really, really, the scale is tipping on the mitzvah side. And then the other neighbor came up after 120 to heaven, and there's not much on the mitzvah side. There's also really not much on the Avera side. It's not like he did anything wrong, but he just was very simple. He led a very simple lifestyle. But then he says at the last moment, suddenly an angel comes and says, but look at his face, that look of disdain every time he saw his neighbor. And suddenly the entire scale is just like, whoop, flipped. And then a different angel comes about the neighbor and says, and look at him, every time he saw the Torah scholar, how he wished that he could do that. And the entire scale took the other way. If it's true or not, I don't know. The Baal Shem Tov is trying to bring out a point. And what's the point? What's the point that he's trying to bring out? Meaning to say, if it really, really happened, I don't know. But what's the point that Baal Shem Tov is trying to bring out?
That is not about what is happening in real, exactly it's not the quantity but the quality of the thing.
Awesome, that's a great way of saying it. It's not necessarily about quantity, it's quality. And what's the quality?
The desire, the inner.
But what's the difference between the Torah scholar and the simple neighbor? What's that one nekuda? What's that one point? Yeah.
How he views other people and himself.
Good.
Like viewing himself as better than other people, or as wanting to be as
right.
good as.
So what's the core there? You're right. How he viewed his neighbor. He viewed his neighbor as less than him. Okay? Right, but so good. Kamocha. What does it mean, kamocha?
So that's what you said about this connection between Hashem, Torah, and the.
Good. So what's the core?
The truth.
Good. The core over here, the core is missing. You have someone who's extremely religious, right? He's learning Torah all day. He kept every mitzvah. He was pious. But there was a certain amount of bittul that was missing there. In other words, it wasn't truly, what's bittul? Bittul means alignment. That means that it's batul to Hashem. It's not about me, it's about him. It's about his ratzon. It's about what he wants from me. So when I'm really connected to that core, to the essence, to Hashem, I don't feel better about myself in regard to other people. It just doesn't work. That means to say it doesn't go one-on-one. What's the word? It's not, they don't coexist together. You understand?
Like he had too much ego.
Exactly. In other words, Hashem really was missing in the picture. So it's true that he did mitzvahs, and mitzvahs do count, by the way, even if you do them with ego. So don't like sit on this story, and that's why I think like you have to be careful. In Tanya he says straight out, even if a mitzvah is done without the right intentions, you still did the mitzvah, and please continue doing it. Okay, don't drop everything because you know that you're not fully, that your intentions are not pure in that mitzvah. Anyway, so that is the story. I think that's where we ended off, right?
Can I ask kind of a related question?
Sure.
It just came up while you were saying that story. Is it a mitzvah to not do an Aveira, or is it just a good thing? Like, I didn't do
Is it a mitzvah not to do an Aveira? That's an interesting question.
Like, I'm wondering if the simple man was getting mitzvahs for not doing it.
You mean the fact that he didn't look down at someone? He was in a position where it wasn't even shayach. You know what that means? Like, it wasn't even relevant for him. He saw himself as someone very, very small. But he wished that he could be closer to Hashem. That was the yearning. So the yearning was very pure. Again, it wasn't about, oh, I wish I could be a popular person, or I wish I could have a good name, or I wish I could be a big Torah scholar so that I could be a big Torah scholar. His desire was so pure. All he wanted was, I wish I would be able to do that. I wish I would be able to learn Torah and connect to Hashem on that level.
Right.
So it was very pure. But when we talk about mitzvahs and averos, a mitzvah is I'm meant to do it, and an avera means that my work around an avera is not to do it, right? But I think in this specific situation, it wasn't like he was intentionally not doing an avera. It was just that he had a very pure desire to want to be closer to Hashem. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think it wasn't even a challenge for him. Right? He doesn't have the opportunity to even, for 1 second, feel haughty near this person. It doesn't even come in.
But let's say besides the story, you're in a situation, let's say hypothetically, you normally eat treif, and one time you're offered treif, and you say, no, this time I'm not going to eat it. Is that a mitzvah?
For sure.
Or it's just not doing it later?
No. It's of course it's a mitzvah. Yeah, you're strengthening the muscles of your godly soul. It's like you're making the better. You get it? But it's a very interesting way that you're putting it there. Meaning to say, what's a mitzvah? Let's define a mitzvah. What's a mitzvah? Good. A mitzvah means a commandment. It's Ratzon Hashem. It's God's will. That's one. So is it God's will for you to eat the treif of meat or not? It's God's will not. So when you're not eating it, are you fulfilling God's will? Absolutely. Are you connecting to God in that moment? Absolutely. Yeah. Okay? Let's move on. So the last words that we did, I think we're up to Parak Beis. Yeah? Amazing. Right, I just wanted to point out something very important. You see here, he talks about a lot. He's talking about the fact that, we're focusing more on the one who has it all right and is doing everything right. And he shouldn't look at someone else as less than him. He shouldn't go into that, what's the word like that? What's the word when I'm sorry, my head is very mushy. I'm not feeling it well. When you get you shouldn't get sucked into this this space of definition, of categorizing. You, me, better, worse, yeah? You should know in some cultures it's like this is it. It's like literally that's where it starts and ends. And then some people just spit it out because it's like can't handle it. So not only do you see, like, I want to look at it from the flip side. Not only are we saying don't look at yourself as a rush, as holier than thou, as better than thou. What about the other side of the coin? What about those who think that they will always be afoot?
They also shouldn't do that either.
Exactly. In other words, that's also the ego. We don't see it as that, because the ego we always think is something that is pompous, right? Like big, haughty, coarse. But he's saying, those people that they think that they're going to be humble and that it's a good thing to be humble, but it's misplaced humility.
He's again this example of like scholars stepping into Bima, what you brought last time.
Oh, yeah. What about that? No, that's the other. That
I know. They were like, ooh, who's like
The most humble.
who's the
Yes.
most right? But they felt holier than thou. I'm talking about what about those that feel like on the other side, right?
Yeah.
It's also addressing those who feel like a foot. In other words, you can also be a rush in your own way. You get it? You can also be the head in your own way. No one set you in stone as a foot. Don't ever view yourself like that. In other words, everyone, if with a true bittul means that I'm in line with infinity. That means whether my role is here or there, I don't view myself as anything less than someone else. It's never like that. Okay? And so what does it mean, true bittul? So true bittul means that I'm in line with infinity and I'm not a doormat. Okay? I'm not someone that you could like step on right now.
Not a people pleaser.
Absolutely. Why do people please?
Because they're scared of being.
Because if they don't please people, they think that nobody's gonna love them, right? So they don't have self-worth, they don't have self-love, and the only way I can obtain love for myself is if I please you. Yeah. Does it work? Doesn't work. Doesn't work. So yeah.
I was gonna say as a side note, it's so funny that you just said I'm not a doormat, because I smile because like growing up my mom was always like don't be a doormat, or like when it comes to like situations like don't people please. I just thought it was interesting. I've never heard anyone else use that phrase. It was funny to me. But,
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people
Who are people pleasers?
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to get in touch with your self-worth. You have to start loving yourself just for the fact that you are a godly soul. Unconditional self-love. You know, it's so interesting. We're going to get in this mimer where he talks about that naturally a healthy person loves himself. And I sort of got stuck there. You'll see, we'll get there. Because I was like, really? I feel like nowadays, wherever you go, nobody loves themselves. I guess we're very unhealthy. Because in a certain sense we do, but we don't. You get what I'm saying? And otherwise, we have blind spots for ourselves, but do we really, really love ourselves? Right? Can you ask yourself, would I want to marry myself?
Some people.
No?
I wouldn't marry myself.
Like,
I always tell it to my
so we have work to do.
I know. That's
Wait,
what
but
I
why? Isn't that like a different kind of love?
No. Why? I'm talking about real love.
It's like the ultimate love.
Exactly. I'm not talking about, what's the word? Infatuation.
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 No, it's like
How do you spell it?
I
Like this?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, awesome. I have to remember this word. What love are you talking about?
Like what I want to spend the rest of my life with myself is that like that kind of
Yeah. You have to.
yeah, you have to.
No, but you have to want
Not
to.
only have to, the question is, can you?
But
You see,
marriage
part
is
of the
outside
reason,
yourself, so it has to be a different kind of like I guess a deeper love. If you're
No, but
choosing to have this relationship with yourself, it has to be
but that's when you're going to be able to fully show up in the relationship with your spouse.
when you want to marry yourself.
When you truly accept yourself and love yourself for who you are.
What's
Look, if we get married, I love this because a lot of times we get married because we actually hope that the person we're marrying is going to help me start loving myself.
yeah. Or like complete you.
Yes. Or like, I feel insecure. I don't really love myself, but maybe if I marry you and you really love me, then I'll start believing that I can love myself.
Yeah.
I want to tell you something.
So
It's a recipe for disaster. No, meaning to say, most of us go into marriages like that because we're not perfect people, okay? And we have work to do. But the sense of self-worth and love has to come from yourself. The other person is there to connect with you, and you're there to really become one and enhance each other. But if you're marrying someone to give you a sense of self, you're never fully showing up in the marriage because there's something that you're trying to take from him. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're not receiving, you're taking. And when you're busy taking, it's just not the right dynamic. It's not healthy. Yeah.
I feel like also like something that I struggle with is like am I ready to start dating? Like I don't like I'm still struggling with like the insecurities and
Right.
loving myself, but at the end of the day you're never gonna get to 100%
You have to get married.
self-love.
You have to get married.
Like you're never gonna get to 100% self-love.
You could.
So you think you could get to 100% self-love? I feel like it's a constant. You're always going to be working. You're going to have setbacks.
No, there's
gonna
always
move
setbacks.
forward
We're always flowing in and out because that's life. As long as we're alive and we're bathing in, we're working, we're struggling. But we can definitely get, what's bittul. It's either being, meaning to say, my standard comfortable space is more here than here. You understand? There are people that are very insecure. There are people that are a bit insecure, and then there are people that are more secure. So you can't say that if you're going to do the work, you're going to do the inner work, you're never ever going to get there. You will, and especially when you're doing the work and you're married to a beautiful person, that really makes you whole. You understand?
So like you get married while you're still doing the work.
For sure. I don't believe in. I know there are some therapists out there. It's not the Torah way. That come and say, don't get married until you did all your work. It's not possible.
No, even a Jewish person said that to me. She's like, you can't get married yet. You're
okay, maybe she's saying that you specifically have something to work on before you get married. But I want to tell you something. The real work begins when you're married. Why? Because you're pushed against the wall. You can't ignore your issues anymore. As long as you're not married, okay, you're doing the work, you're aware, you came to learn. At the end of the day, no one is pushing you against the wall. If it gets too hard, you could just run buy yourself an ice cream. Do you know what I'm saying? But when you're married to someone and you're committed to this marriage, where are you going to run to? He's going to be in your bedroom, again, the same like that night, and the next night, and the next night, right? Some people actually do run away and get divorced. But is that the solution? Most of the times not. A lot of people that get divorced get married again and get divorced again. Until they're ready to do the work. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Whether it's for yourself or for others, how can you tell the difference between infatuation and love?
I mean, to me, it's quite obvious. But let's try to walk you through this. What's the difference between infatuation and love? So first of all, I would say that infatuation is a human condition, normal, okay? And most of us are going to have it at some point, okay? I mean to say more like in the beginning, dating process, or like the age where you start, feeling your femininity and, right? But guess what happens? So if it's all about infatuation, and that's how it begins, and I think that Hashem makes it that way, because if not, we wouldn't get married.
What even is infatuation?
What is it?
Yeah. It's just like
It's just a hormonal thing.
It's the physical
It's just
attraction,
it's the attraction towards
excitement.
the other gender, and literally your body is excited, and just it feels like it.
oh,
It's
that's not
very.
how I was defining. Okay.
So what are you defining?
I thought infatuation was like kind of honestly like love. Like I didn't think it was so body focused.
It is.
Oh,
It is,
okay.
and
It's also like
you see. So the thing,
Then, yeah, I get it.
the thing with infatuation is you have to understand is that it doesn't last.
Right.
It doesn't last. So what happens? A couple gets married. There's a lot of infatuation, okay? And it's supposed to be that way because otherwise, what would get the marriage going? You know what I'm saying? Like, it makes sense and it's beautiful. It's very nice. But then, let me ask you a question. Okay, the other day, remember I said if somebody asked me if I would go back. Was it in this class?
Yeah.
And I said, no way. Why? So it's very nice. In the beginning, it's very exciting and but there's no intimacy. Because what does intimacy mean?
Closeness.
Oneness. Intimacy means oneness. Being one with someone else is hard work. It's not easy. And it's holy. When something is holy, it's not infatuation.
Right.
Two different things.
I think I was defining it like different. I thought it was a different.
Right. So what happens is the couple gets married and it's very exciting. But guess what? After a while, even the most pleasurable things, if it's just external,
Mm-hmm.
it gets boring. Not exciting anymore.
Right.
So now the real work begins. It's not about infatuation. That's why Jewish, the way the Torah views marriage is brilliant. It's not about infatuation. It's not about pleasure. It's about becoming one and really committing ourselves to each other. And in that, can we really create oneness? You get it?
Yeah.
Also, like, infatuation is so easy, it's so simple, it just happens naturally, and real love takes work.
Right.
Like, it
That's
takes
what I was saying.
time.
It's hard work. But once you do the work, and then there's real intimacy, you cannot compare the pleasure of true intimacy to whatever it is that the world is calling love. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's incomparable. But again, yeah, it's hard work. How did we get here? How? 1 second.
Marry yourself.
Okay, marry
Oh
yourself.
yeah, marry yourself.
Marry yourself. Oh,
Self-worth and love comes.
Humble,
Right.
you know,
so there was a story that somebody once told the Rebbe. Somebody asked a shliach to speak at a very large, fancy, honorable gathering, and he literally felt like it wasn't his place. So he sort of, what's it called? Like, turned it down. And then he wrote to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe answered him. I love it. The Rebbe answered him, Anava shalai bim kaimai, yisaidasai gaiva. What does that mean? Anava, humility, shalai bim kaimai, that is not in the right place. Yisudasai, its foundation is coming from gaiva, which is haughtiness. Isn't that deep? Humility that is misplaced is coming from your ego. Why? Misplaced humility is really rooted in arrogance. Why?
Sounds backwards.
Why?
Because if you think that you're like too good to be somewhere, or like it's too humble, like whatever.
So then you're still stuck where?
Inside.
In the ego. You're still stuck in your head. You understand? Oh, this is too much for me. Who's the me? Think about it. If you're in oneness, if you're a conduit for godliness, if godliness is just flowing through you, and you're meant to be somewhere to inspire people, why is it about you at all? Whether it makes sense or it doesn't make sense, it's like 1 minute. I can right now in this moment be an ambassador for godliness and light. It's not about me. I'm not in the picture. It's just about what? Spreading the light. It's about Hashem. So again, when you take yourself too seriously, you know that you're stuck where? In your ego. Yeah.
That like reminded me of Mordecai and Esther. How like Esther was like worried about, being the person
But she was scared.
scared to go up to the king.
It was very scary.
But the way that Mordecai said it, that it's not about you. It's about this is gonna happen whether it comes from you or not.
Right. And he also said something else which is so powerful. Like maybe this is the whole reason why you were sent there. Absolutely, yeah.
But how can we know when this community is misplaced. Like sometimes, I can bring you an example.
Sure.
I got invited a few times to an event where it was mixed, like men and women. So like I was telling myself, okay, this is not
To speak?
not to speak, just come, just to like participate in the event.
Okay.
Like come, not to speak, no, definitely not. I mean, and I like again, like I said, like that's inappropriate or like different examples.
That's so clear.
That's all clear, but again, like it may sound against as misplaced humanity because why should it be?
No, you see, so we're very lucky as from Jews because we have halacha as our guide. So it makes life really simple. As in, if it's mixed, it's not allowed. And if it's not allowed, then I won't. It's not about being haughty. It's about doing what's on Hashem.
What if
So-
it's like,
But it's also how you present yourself. You know, do you think now that you're better than everyone who's attending that party, or just that you're very lucky to be in a certain space where you have the clarity, and that's it. But that doesn't make you better than them. Do you get what I'm saying?
It's about like it's not about like the fact are you going or not. It's the fact what you're feeling when you say I would not come to this place.
What are you saying? That when you say it, you feel haughty? You're not sure if you should be going. I'm not understanding the question. Or they feel that you're holier than them? What's the issue there?
I think the fact like the last part that you said like that it may sound that hold on, you may say no, but oh she's like egoistic, how to say it, or like, and I honestly like that's partially what I can also feel like I'm like
I'm better than you.
yeah. But at the same time, there's like an understanding that okay, that's not a right thing to do. So anyway,
Right.
I'm
So
saying
I'll give you two answers, okay? First of all, even though you're feeling egotistical by not going and feeling better than them, you still can't go.
okay.
Now, second answer, where's the work? You need to do the work. You need to do the work. You need to fully accept yourself and your struggles and their self and their struggles. They're not where you are. But that doesn't make you better than them. It's just that you're in two different places. You're both doing work, and your work is now here, and their work is there. And I think that when it's truly coming from a place of humility, they don't get insulted. They just respect you for who you are. Do you get what I'm saying?
and if they don't, then it's on them, not on you.
Yeah, but like I hear her struggle as I'm like, sometimes you don't want to always make the other person feel like, oh, you know, you're doing it wrong, you get what I'm saying? I've been in such situations. It's hard. But again, if it comes from a real place of really try to do that work, really understanding them and their struggle for what they're not up to there yet, and that's so normal, so okay. And really accept them for who they are, and then just decline it somehow, or try to maybe you can try to even get away from it in a way that it's not obvious that you're not coming. You're allowed to, by the way. You're allowed to even, it says, for the sake of peace, you're allowed to lie. You have to be careful, you don't want to become a liar, but I'm saying you're allowed to like twist a little bit, say like, oh, I have to be here at this time, or, you get what I'm saying? If you don't want to scream in their face that, oh, I'm already religious and I don't do mixed parties, that's not, yeah,
But sometimes, like, I had been in this situation, and I had to go because it was my best friend's birthday, and it was like mixed. And I couldn't like say, oh, I'm not coming, like, you know what I mean? So what can we do in this situation? If it's like our really, really close friends or like family, like my family is not rich, like my dad's side. So I have to go to the weddings and dance with them, even though I don't dance with the men. Like, what
that's
can I
very
do?
genuine.
Because every time we're together, we're like the problem. We're not eating. We're
Right.
not going shopping.
You're like, oh my gosh, I'm calling too much attention to myself.
Yeah, and I'm like, even the wedding, we're like being a little bit like,
Yeah.
So, like, what can we do in this situation?
So practically speaking, I don't know. Like I'm not an expert. I think you're really describing the life of a Baal Tshuva, like, which is so hard. And my husband's always dealing with this because all his students are like, they're going home and their parents don't even keep kosher, some of them, you know? And so I don't know practically. I'm talking about emotionally. How are you viewing them? You know what I'm saying? If there's full acceptance, they're going to fully accept you.
They do.
That's what I'm saying. As long
I
as you're
feel
not
bad for
judging them. As long as you're not judging them.
I'm not judging. I just feel bad, like, that I'm the problem. Like, I'm doing problems, you know what I mean? Like, oh, sorry, I can't eat that. Oh, sorry, I couldn't come to Shabbos.
I know.
They're texting me, like, on October 7th. They texted me, like, I couldn't answer because it was, like, Shabbos, I think? Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And-
tomorrow.
And I'm like, sorry. Then they were really mad at me, like, why didn't you answer? So I feel bad.
Okay, them being mad at you is not your problem. It's not. But if you are fully committed, you know you're doing the right thing in a non-haughty way, they'll come around. They'll appreciate you for who you are. It's really how you hold yourself. You understand? This feeling guilty is not coming from a healthy place.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying? You don't have to feel guilty for being true to yourself. You're worthy. You're worthy of that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And the more you hold it,
But it's hard. It's very hard.
it's murderous. Very hard. But that's the work. The more you hold your worth, the more the people around you start treating you that way. You ever saw that, by the way?
Yeah.
That's how it is. It's like, but like, I'm not sure. I don't even know. Da, 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 da. So everyone just like starts stepping on you like that. Yeah. There's a crazy story of a shaliach who had like a pig. I forgot his name. What his name is? Oh gosh, in Minnesota. Who's with Manas Freeman? There's one more family. Okay, whatever. Quite a famous name. He had a meeting with a big businessman. Like he was gonna get a very big donation. And then suddenly he realized, I think he was running late, he came, suddenly he realized that it was Shkia. It was time to daven mincha. And he was really torn. Like, imagine, put yourself in that position. You're about to face someone quite important with a lot of money, but then if I daven mincha, I miss this opportunity. It wasn't the kind of guy where he'd say like, oh, please wait for me 15 minutes, I have the daven mincha. No, it's like he's making time for me, but he made the choice. He made the right choice. He says, no matter what, I'm going to daven mincha. And he went. He said he already gave up on it, and he went to his corner, did his thing, daven mincha. So what's going on over here? He had to make a choice. Am I going to be true to myself, or am I going to get pulled into the pressure of the world around me, right? And when he was true to himself in a very dignified way, he knows where he stands. This is him, and he did his thing. What ended up happening was that guy was so impressed that he ended up giving him like even a bigger donation, and I think he gave him a full audience, like even though it was past the time. And so it's really just about really being confident and knowing who you are and what you stand for. So it could be that that's still shaky. You understand what I'm saying? Because it takes work. It takes work, especially when everyone around you is not there and is not doing the same thing. It's huge. It's huge. But it's really going back to that same point, right? You were asking me, how do I not please people? It's always going back to the same nikudah, the same point. That is my unconditional what? Self-worth. Unconditional, unmovable. No one can take that away from me. I need to start really seeing myself for who I am and really sit with it. Okay? So much for the mimer. Let's get into it. Okay. Okay. So now, Parak base. Okay. So now he says, what we said till now is very general. In general, what happens on Rosh Hashanah? We all come back to our source. We're all gathering to come to the king, and it has to be, or not it has to be, it will automatically be in a very unified fashion because in essence we are all one. Now he's going to say, After prat. Details. What do we do? Okay? Now he's going to ask three very practical questions. First of all, how do I reach this oneness? Anyone have that question? You sort of asked it yourself. And here the Alter Rebbe says, number one, how do I reach this oneness? How do I really tap into this oneness of who I am? Number two, umahu inyan tshuva. What is really the concept of tshuva, of returning? And the third question is, v'lama dafka b'Rosh Hashanah? And why specifically is this the work of Rosh Hashanah? Be'er ha'kasav achar kach. In the same pasuk, when Moshe Rabbeinu was talking to the Yidden right before he passes on, he says, you're all standing here before Hashem. And the next two words in the pasuk, lifnei habaya, is le'avrecha b'bris. What does le'avrecha mean? To take you through a bris. What's a bris? A covenant. Okay? Now, let me ask you a question. What is the point of a covenant?
A promise?
It's really it's a commitment.
You take responsibility.
Document. It's like what?
You take responsibility for yourself.
One minute. But if we love each other, then we don't need a covenant because we love each other. If we don't love each other, then we don't need a covenant because we don't love each other. Is the covenant going to make me love you more? No. So what's the point of the covenant?
It's a reminder that when the love gets lost, you know how to get back to it.
Okay, beautiful. So she said it's a reminder that when the love gets lost, then what?
You know how to get back to it, like where it came from.
Oh, so it sort of holds the relationship together?
No, it like reminds you like when it gets lost and it's like.
Oh, remember we once loved each other.
But like it brings you back to that place.
Okay, so you ready? You want to hear what a covenant is? Let's go. The inyan and the concept is kemay lamashal, an analogy. Shnei I have him. There are two people that love each other. Shekarsim bris, and they make a treaty between them. They make a covenant between them. Beinayim between them. Shalai tifsaik ahabasam. What's the point of the covenant? That their love should not stop. She'ilu haya hadavar she'ava toloi bai. Because if their love is dependent on something, right? She'ava toloi bai kayim la'ad, and it will last forever. Loi hayu tzrichin l'krisas bris b'neihem. If that something that's making them love each other is going to last forever, they wouldn't need to make a covenant between them. Ella ba lefi sheyireim, because they are afraid. Shema yivutal hadavar ubatla ahava. They're afraid that maybe that thing that makes me love you right now might disappear, so then my love will disappear. Or maybe sometimes, and how relevant is this? Sometimes it's not something between the two people. It's someone from the outside, a third party, that comes in and destroys the relationship. Yeah? An unhealthy parent, a jealous friend, whatever. Okay? Maybe that's going to happen. Someone from the outside is going to come and damage this relationship. Ve'al yidei krisas habris. But through this covenant, tiyeh ahavasam ahava nitzchis. Their love is going to be an eternal love. Bal timait olam vayed. Right? It will never go away forever. V'lo yafridem, and they will not be able to separate. Shumaniya, nothing will hold them back. Mibayis, from within. Umichot, and from outside. Interesting. V'hainu mipnei she'osim b'neihem kesher amitz. And because they create a very, very strong bond between each other, v'chazak, and it's strong. Sheyisyachadu v'yiskashu b'avasam b'kesher nifla l'mayla v'natam v'das. What is the nature of a bris? What is the nature of a covenant? they are committing to creating a very strong love that is, this is the key word. L'mayla mitam v'das. It's higher than rationale. It makes no sense. In other words, they're saying the love that we have, we are so committed to each other that when it seems like it's over, and when things might come and go, and things might happen in life, and a third party might come in, or you might lose the thing that makes me love you right now. When that happens, I'm going to remember that we made a covenant, we made a bris, and that bris goes higher than rationale, higher than seichel. Because maybe according to rationale, according to what makes sense, we should end the relationship now. Or maybe right now it really makes sense that we should hate each other. Nevertheless, because we created a covenant, we are forced to keep loving each other forever. And now, the love covers over all the sins. This strong bond, because it came through a covenant, it's as if they become one flesh. And just like a person can't stop loving himself, so too he won't suddenly decide that he can't love his friend. In other words, a bris, by the way, how did they make a bris? What did it look like?
A document?
No. Hashem made with Avram this bris, and what does it look like? They take an animal and they cut it in half. So this is one half of the animal and the other half of the animal. So it's one animal, they cut it in half and then they walk through it. That is the way they made a covenant. What is it representing? When we both go in the middle of two halves of one animal, what are we saying? In other words, even though we're two separate people, we're really right now committing to become one. And this is above rationale. Makes no sense. In other words, when there's every reason in the world to stop the relationship, when there's every reason in the world that the love is gone, it's over, I am still committed to it. So now let me ask you a question. Really, we have to stop, but I feel like, does this sound abusive?
It sounds like dangerous that it could lead to staying in a relationship that's not healthy.
Exactly. Good. Yes? I mean, does it sound a little bit like, oh, so basically I'm in this forever, and once if it's not working out? Yeah? Okay. So, great. So what we need to understand here is something much deeper. It's not about you're committed no matter what. It's what the covenant does is it exposes the true dimension of the relationship. It's not that we have to always stay one. It's that essentially we are one. And that being one, essentially, is l'mayla mitam v'das. It's not about making sense. It's who we are. In our essence, we are one. And that is the truth. The way Judaism sees marriage, let's say, a husband and wife are two halves of one soul. And when they get married, they become one. And they are actually one. And
It's not the right person.
if it's not the right person. But
Also, they come become one.
what do you mean? But what does it mean that it's not the right person? You married this person.
Yeah, but if it's not like from the Zivug Shamayim that like Hashem brought to you, like if you married the wrong person.
Right, but okay, I like your question. She's asking what if you married the wrong person, okay? It's a great question. Why is it a great question? Because some people do marry the wrong person, okay? And that's the journey their soul needs to take. That they're going to marry the wrong person, then they're going to get divorced, and then they're going to do the work they have to do, and then they're going to marry the right person, okay? But, a big but here. We don't go into a marriage thinking that there's a 50% chance you're going to marry the wrong person. Do you get what I'm saying? That mindset comes from fear. It's not coming from a good place, and you can end up in a very bad place. When I do all my possible, hishtadlus, what's that? How do you say it? Like, I'm putting in my effort. I'm dating. I'm trying to find my soulmate, and then I find him, and I believe that this can work. How do I go into this marriage? Do I go into the marriage thinking, if it doesn't work out, I could just get divorced? Or do I go into the marriage with a full commitment? This is it, and we're going to make this work. Full commitment. And then once you're in the marriage with the full commitment, and there's still very difficult things that come up, and you reach out to help, and then you might be told by professionals or rabbis, I'm sorry, it's not working out. Maybe the two of you just need to. But I want to tell you something. I am sorry, I say things very radically, but most divorces are not necessary. Can I say that? Ellie's like, I don't care. Did anyone read the book The Choice?
By
Edith Eger. Okay. Such a good book. I have it.
I'm thinking of The Chosen, not The Choice.
No, The Choice.
By
Edith Eger. Dr. Edith Eger. So it does have a little romance in it, so like. But if you're anyways gonna read it, like if you're anyways reading romance, so then whatever. It's chaval because it's such a good book, and she went and destroyed it with that's whatever.
What is it? Is it an educational book or it's a story?
She's a Holocaust survivor, and so the first half of the book she takes you through her Holocaust experience. The second half of the book she takes you through her healing experience, like how she healed. It's amazing because she really healed, and to know that someone could heal after the Holocaust, meaning to say she's living without trauma, is like, to me, it's very chazik. Like, it gives me a lot of chizuk. Because that's probably the biggest trauma, what she went through. Anyway, but what I love about the book, best part, so I'm a big, fan of, get married and stay married. And figure it out. So I'm reading this book, and I couldn't put it down. She writes it so well. I literally was sitting there, and I did it like a one read, And I'm sitting there, and I'm reading, and then the war is over, and she survives, and she marries this guy, okay? And they go through Gehenna, because even after the war, the Jews really suffered, because they were misplaced, and then the communism came into Hungary. So she marries this guy. They're very, very, very wealthy. He's very wealthy. And then communists come and arrest him. Here we go again. Issues again. And then they come to the decision where they know that they need to flee. It's either to Israel or to America. And she does this whole crazy thing. She gets him out of jail. And they basically escape. They thought they were going to Israel, so they sent their entire wealth to Israel, but then they changed their mind. So they come to America with not a penny. Okay? So imagine what this couple is going through together. Okay? How much they went through together. How she saved him, helped him escape from prison, and then brings him to America. Now, once they get to America, now what happens? Now that she settles down, what do you think is going to start happening in the relationship? They both went through a lot of trauma. What's happening? A lot of the schmutz comes up, right? A lot of anger, depression, and all the icky stuff come up now, right? And so she's trying to heal. She's trying to figure this out. But of course, what does she think? Who is the source of all her problems? Her husband. And I'm reading this, and then she writes that they got divorced. And I'm like, no! And then you have to hear this, because of 2 chapters later, she gets remarried to the same guy. And I'm like, yes! Yay! That is the most awesome part of the book, because she writes straight out, she realized he wasn't the issue. She was. But once she was able to do her inner work and realize that, that's when she realized that he's really the love of her life. And they got back together. Isn't that awesome? I don't know. I like, it's really, really amazing. Really amazing. So how do we get into this? Oh, about the Krisais bris. The Krisais bris, the bris is the commitment of knowing that even when things get hard, and even when, it really looks like it's over, we know deep inside, beyond rationale, that we belong to each other. And if we belong to each other, there's for sure hope in this relationship. It brings out a very deep part of the relationship. So we're going to talk tomorrow how Hashem did it with us, the Jews, okay?
Yeah.